Today, August 11, is the memorial of Saint Clare, Virgin. Saint Clare of Assisi was the first woman to practice the life of entire poverty as taught by Saint Francis. Placed by him at the head of a few companions in a small convent of San Damiano, she governed her community for 42 years, thus founding at the gates of Assisi the Order of Poor Clares. Their rule included austerities so far unknown in monasteries of women. They went barefoot, slept on the ground, kept a perpetual abstinence, and made poverty the basis of their lives. Saint Clare died on August 11, 1253, and was canonized 2 years after her death. The breviary says of her, following the example of Saint Francis, she distributed all her possessions among the poor. She fled from the noise of the world and betook herself to a country chapel where Saint Francis himself sheared off her hair and clothed her with a penitential garb on March 18, 1212 at the age of 18. Then she resided at the church of Saint Damian, where the Lord provided for her a goodly number of companions. So she established a community of nuns and acted as their superior at the wish of Saint Francis. For 42 years, she directed the nunnery with zeal and prudence, her own life serving as a constant sermon for her sisters to emulate. Of Pope Innocent IV, she requested the privilege that she and her community live in an absolute poverty. She was the most perfect follower of Saint Francis of Assisi. When the Saracens were besieging Assisi and were preparing to attack the convent, Saint Clare asked to be assisted as far as the entrance, for she was ill. In her hand, she carried a vessel containing the Blessed Eucharist as she prayed, "O Lord, do not deliver over to the beasts the souls that praise you. Protect your servants, for you have redeemed them by your precious blood." And in the midst of that prayer, a voice was heard saying, "Always will I protect you." The Saracens took to flight. Clare was the first flower in the garden of the poor man of Assisi. Poor in earthly goods, but rich in her utter poverty, she was the replica of Jesus, poor in the crib and on the cross. At her time, the church generally and many churchmen were enmeshed in financial matters and political maneuvering. Through the renewal of the ideal of poverty, Saint Francis effected a reform of Christian life in head and members. In our 20th century, there still remain large areas with millions suffering under extreme poverty. Poverty in itself is no virtue, but it should be made into a virtue. Let us recall a few of the examples and texts from Holy Scriptures which show how precious poverty is and what deep reverence we should have toward it. Christ was poor. His entrance into the world and his departure from it took place in circumstances of greatest need. He had no house wherein to be born, no crib, no house wherein to die, no deathbed. Poverty stood watch at birth and remained to see his death. The foxes have dens, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. At least we can be moderate and frugal, and thereby find the way to the spirit of Christian poverty. Saint Clare, help us.